The International Barcelona race of 1993 would only be won by a bird of exceptional caliber. The weather was hot with a strong headwind reported the full distance. It was therefore no surprise when no birds were reported on the day. As fanciers scanned the empty sky, a result was flashed on teletext. A Dutchman flying considerably further than his French or Belgian competitors had clocked what was to become first international. Everybody was dumbfounded. Jan Thielen of Nieuwstraat, Beckenham, Holland, timed the winning bird at 9:03, a full 1 hour ahead of his nearest rival. This would be a day Jan would never forget. In 1990, when Jan Thielen sold both his pub and all his birds, most thought it was the end for the flying innkeeper, as he was known, but they were mistaken. Jan was already building a new loft at another address and breeding youngsters from the same foundation stock that had given him years of success. The bells of the church in Beckenham would ring the return of Jan Thielen, a comeback even more spectacular than anybody could ever have dreamed. In the late 50s, Jan raced both long and short distance, but after an exceptional result flying from the race point of Dax, he decided there and then to specialize in long distance only. He strengthened his strain by acquiring long-distance birds from Jos Hermans of Mariaberg. The Herman strain has to this day remained his first love, but Jan is not frightened to introduce new stock. Visits to Roger van Guick's Melseler have provided him with ideal birds to cross with the Hermans, and purchases from the legendary long-distance flyers Kuiper brothers of Nier further enhanced his winning team. Finally, but not least, Jan discovered the long-distance abilities of the Hofkens pigeons, which have turned out to be an important ingredient in his loft's pedigree. His present fearsome racing team all trace their roots back to this solid foundation stock. Without it, Jan is doubtful he could have pulled off the fantastic victory achieved from Barcelona. Jan Thielen is a professional. He strongly believes in building a bond between bird and fancier. Although he competes in the young bird program, he doesn't accept a good young bird will become a good old bird. In fact, when selecting at the end of the year, he totally disregards any results a bird may have achieved. For him, future stock is selected in the hand. If it doesn't feel right, he won't keep it, regardless of how many races it may have won. Feeling, that's the only way to select, Jan insists. At this loft, things are done in moderation. Hygiene is, of course, important, but he doesn't overdo the medicine and strongly recommends the occasional use of Thielen's new liquid tea in the drinking water. From the earliest opportunity, his young birds get fed a good, solid diet. From the earliest opportunity, his young birds get fed a good, solid diet. This neat, tidy construction is Jan's complete loft. Large by our standards, but fairly small by continental standards. On the upper level, to the left, you can observe the 4 Sputnik traps for the widowers. Directly underneath, at ground level, are housed the young birds. The right-hand end of the structure at both levels is reserved for birds on the natural system. JAN Thielen doesn't need to convince anybody of the quality and condition of his birds. White bodies with red and warm feet.
En ik denk niet dat ik zo ver op Jan kan zeggen. Zelf niet. Die is er geweldig mooi aan. Zeer blank van onder, mooie rode poten heeft zitten. Hiervan is ook vorm. Joe op zijn 3e pen, heeft zijn 4e en 5e pen en Stevens heeft ze gelijk de dijk weggegooid.
These strange-looking white boxes can be found in every section. They absorb the moisture and keep humidity levels within acceptable limits. Cobwebs in the loft, a sign of ideal conditions, so say Belgian fanciers. This netting beneath the Sputnik is the only ventilation in the loft. From a few days old, the youngsters are handled. In Jan's book, the head must be steady and firm, and most important, the squab should make an attempt to defend himself.
Dit zijn 5 soorten mengelingen.
Wherever possible, 5 standard brands are mixed together. Nothing is left to chance. An old-timer like Jan won't be caught out by an early or late arrival. He has an alarm system wired to the super trap and linked to the house. The widowers are not exercised in the mornings. They are only released in the evening between 5 and 6 o'clock. Jan admits he would like a little more regularity in his training and his care systems, but doesn't believe it makes a lot of difference. full bath is essential and always available. All racers, 38 widow to natural birds, head around March the 8th. Perhaps he's a little superstitious, always waits for a full moon. Pairing on a full moon and losing so few birds each season. This is Ricky, named after Jan Thielen, a tough white-eyed hen axe. Harry is the brother of Wimbacks of Woodle, whose long day is mainly based on Kuiper birds. Ricky's pedigree, we find no less than 4 breeding pairs from the Kuiper loft. It was through this sky Ricky flapped her last few yards that memorable Barcelona winning Sunday, in blistering heat, in a killing headwind, and against all the odds. This bird, the Dax, is another mainstay of the Thielen loft. On his father's side, it's Kuiper paired to Lisbeth, and his mother's side Kuiper paired to 10 line. When we filmed, Dax had just won the Big Three, those races from Bergerac, Dax and Perpignan. He even managed an 11th international from Dax, returning with 2 broken legs. The Val, a little hen with a first-class pedigree. We discover the names of 34, Lisbeth, the 10, Kuipers, Vala Marthen. This bird has class written all over her. The Val was the 1992 winner from Dax, the first Thielen pigeon from Pau in 1993 and 3rd Perpignan. This is Benny. His father is a descendant of Ben Langer in the line of Kletskop, of Fons van Ophuizen. His mother from the long-distance matador Herman van Helmond from Vosselaar. Earlier in the year, Benny was first from Marseille, but shortly after we filmed, he was lost in the Perpignan race. First and foremost, a hard Barcelona race is one with good pigeons, but Jan keeps close control on diet, medication and supplements. He believes in the natural way of living and regularly gives tea, garlic and red onions. Vitamins are rarely used, but when necessary, treatment against trichomonas and coccidiosis is given. This long-distance flyer doesn't worry about the latest fads or performance boosters. He just carries on in the good old-fashioned way and enjoys his pigeons. The professional Thielen doesn't ignore science. He regularly examines a smear or dropping under his microscope. If there's anything amiss, he wants to know immediately. He and his wife Truus go through the family photo album, and beautiful memories come flooding back. An international win from Barcelona, no less. The clock on the wall reads, "I am the champion, but my pigeons did it." True, but the champion did his fair share. One of Jan's tricks is to train his birds in the dark, releasing them from 15 kilometers to teach them night flying. His efforts were amply rewarded, as to win Barcelona by such a margin, Ricky must have flown through the dark. For Jan Thielen, all his sacrifices have been repaid 1,000 times. Oostake, near Ghent, Belgium. Known as a place of pilgrimage, but to a pigeon fancier, a bastion town of outstanding flyers. The Groenstraat, to many a piece of sacred ground, immortalized forever, for this is the street the famous Raoul and Xavier Vistra live and have their loft. This famous pair are no strangers to racing success and enjoy international fame. When the Verstraete loft first started in 1968, success came quickly, and very soon the results could only be described as amazing. Within the space of 5 short years, people were referring to them as the miracle loft from Oostake. Their rapid rise to fame was brought about with the purchase of 2 pigeons who produced Goedenbol, Olympiad middle distance champion, 1993, and from Goedenbol, the famous Mirage was bred, who in turn produced Thriller. Both became first national ace pigeon. But it is 1979 that the history books will record as an important milestone for the Verstraete loft. For it was that year, through Robert Venus, Elvis was bought and crossed with Bolline, a golden move responsible for producing the likes of Elvis Turbo and Zwarte Asduifike. Crossing Goedenbol and Elvis resulted in Millionaire, a bird whose name will be recorded forevermore in the annals of the sport. With the Croissant pigeons, Robert Venus was a quartermaster for breeding birds, specially for the long, hard distance races. Younger Barcelona, Boom Boom, Triumph, and first provincial Narbonne 1993, son of the Majestic. In the widower loft of Raoul and Xavier Verstraete, we are reminded of 3 things. It bursts with class pigeons. They are not fanatical over the care of the widowers, and the ventilation has been drastically reduced in recent years. Possibly small points, but detail they hold dear. The hens play an important part at this loft, and in return are given first-class accommodation. This section has full floor grills, is airy, screened, and a rigorous hygiene schedule is enforced. The Verstraete family lives and breathes pigeon racing. On the large veranda, the family sits, with unrestricted views of the loft, and discuss their only passion, pigeons. Family life and hobby blend perfectly in this household. Father Roel, Mother Verstraete, son Xavier, and his wife plan the tasks ahead and allocate jobs to be done. Granddaughter Carmen has no choice, but even at her age, she knows the ropes. It's no secret in Belgium that when it comes to breeding pigeons, this family insists on the best. They breed from ace pigeons with provincial and national winners always their aim. This is Dax, or rather the national Dax winner of 1988. He is grandfather of Bingo, first national Argenton 1992. And here is Bingo. Quality breeds quality, as they say in Belgium. This one's Big Boss. His real name, provincial winner Cahors and La Souterraine 1989. First national ace pigeon, long distance 1989. Third world championship 1989. The Victory, first national ace pigeon, long distance 1989. And the Vicky, fourth provincial champion, long distance 1990. 2 full sisters, 2 first-class hens. Lucky Luke, Superstar Marathon, Provincial Champion Long Distance 1991, 4th National Ace Pigeon Long Distance. Father Lucky Luke, talented breeder. The Schöne Baron, first prizes from 200 to 700 kilometers. The Uno, one of the present superclass birds in this loft, a national winner from Bourg against 10,992 birds. The Solo is his son and prodigy. He won first national La Souterraine 1991 with a 15-minute lead, beating almost 26,000 others. Uno has fathered Bravo, Unique, and dozens more top-class birds, including the Brive hen, a stubborn old lady who won first national Brive in 1992. The young birds are assured the same attention. When the widowers have finished their morning training, it's their turn. Right from the beginning, the young birds are separated into cocks and hens. They do not even exercise together. Only at basketing time are they allowed to mix, and then only for 1 hour immediately before the basket. Later in the season, a certain number are allowed to pair and will be trained especially for the late summer classic races. Those who hesitate are given a helping hand. The same method is also used on race days. You can't waste time at this loft. The young pigeons are familiarized, almost from the nest, with what can sometimes be the most stressing piece of equipment that from now on will be the center of their life, the basket. The back has been removed from a training pannier and placed in the center of the loft. From now on, the birds will have no access to water or food, other than by entering the basket. In a very short time, the birds accept the new system and walk in and out of the pannier freely. When later in life the basket becomes their second home, the birds of Vistra will have nothing to fear. The basket is a way of life and completely familiar. Wooden floor grills help to make for excellent hygiene and allow air to circulate freely. To naturally slow down the molt, the loft will be darkened for 3 months, the famous darkening system. Granddaughter Carmen plays her part in building a bond between pigeon and owner. The jewel in the crown of the Vistra loft is undoubtedly the breeding section. Raoul and Xavier follow a simple rule. Only pigeons that have proved their worth are allowed to breed. It's an easy philosophy for them to follow, as at the time of our visit they could pick from 5 national winners and 14 birds classed as ace pigeons, on account of their previous race prizes. These birds will form the backbone of breeding loft. In general, this loft believes crossbreeding is best. Rowell explains, those who try to crossbreed using inferior stock are doomed to failure before they start. Inbreeding is possible, but only with superclass birds. At this loft, we are left in no doubt what constitutes a top-class pigeon. It's their race record only, and no notice is taken of pedigrees, whether good or bad. Eye, wing, bone structure, it only matters a bit. Pigeons with soft feathers and excellent results are the only ones they have time for here. It is here in the beautiful rooftop lofts and aviaries that Uno, Solo, Bravo, Dax, Victory, Breve, Hen, Porsche, Jumbo, the Barons, Eurostar, and dozens of other top-class birds produce offspring for one of Flanders' most successful racing teams. It's no surprise birds from this loft are in great demand both here in Belgium and overseas, with many a loft owing its success to the high-class injection of birds purchased from the famous Rowell and Xavier Vistra lofts. The attic houses a library rich in a glorious history. The Elvis, a bird famous worldwide after winning first national ace pigeon, Germany, 1995, produced in crossbreeding with the Boll line and responsible for the explosion of talented birds that grace this strain. It was hard to say goodbye to Gudenball, although we left him jealously guarding his impressive list of honours. So many memories must be reawakened when viewing this wall of old snapshots. Glorious moments in the history of the Vistra loft. 25 years of racing at an exceptionally high level. Peaks of fortune in a rich career. Moments of extraordinary luck and no doubt a few sad reflections. Three big names that have changed the course of pigeon racing in Belgium: Vistra, Boschjen, Rijkaard. And the Plankherts. They were close friends of the family. This special construction allows the Vistrats to practice the stallion system by allowing the cock in the center section to breed with 4 hens at a time. The incubator is always a fascinating instrument. When both hen and cock are raced at the same time, the eggs are placed in here. Finally, the trophy cupboard, conclusive proof of this loft's success. 25 years at the top, hard work and effort, converted into cups, trophies, honours, certificates. It's quite something. Silent, tangible reminders of the world-class loft housed in Groenstraat, Oostake, Belgium. Union, Antwerp, André Roothoft. 2 names inextricably linked. To understand why, we must go back to 1983. It was in 1983 André played king for the first time at the High School of Pigeon Racing. as the Belgians nicknamed their Union. In 1987, the same Roothoft became General Champion Long Distance Club Antwerp. 1988, Double King of the Union and General Champion Long Distance Club. And then in 1992, King of Union Antwerp for the third time. 3 times lucky, and testament to his unswerving devotion to the sport and the variety of pigeon housed in his loft. Indeed, André Roothoft has accumulated a list of honours few could equal. We only have time to mention a few pinnacle achievements, but hidden behind the facade is a great master of pigeons. All the more spectacular when we learn it has been accomplished with birds of simple common origin. Breeding has been selective, with birds nursed, taught and raced by this real professional of the sport. In spite of immense success and fame, André Roothoft has always remained a modest man. Where others would boast or exaggerate, this man would always tell you the truth and the whole story. If we were asked to name a fancier who practices a modern approach to pigeon racing that's acceptable to the ordinary fancier, André would be our candidate. It's reassuring to know even a champion of his stature has only the good of the sport at heart. Class, hygiene and nature are 3 key words in André's approach to pigeon racing. He holds strong views on hygiene. Here at the bottom of the widowhood loft is a coating of sand that is cleaned daily. Floors covered in sand, in his opinion, are hygienic. They don't produce dust and as a bonus provide good protection against worms and coccidiosis. It's of interest to note that although the sand is topped up regularly, it has never been renewed. In humid conditions, the sand becomes damp, so every 2 or 3 days, it is literally burnt dry with a gas torch. Marcel has offered a helping hand with the scraping out, but André insists on doing the widowers himself. An attic loft constructed over a warm base with a large air reservoir is just perfect. It doesn't need to be all high-tech. Simple ideas are in many cases the most effective. One of the most important things to remember is to allow for plenty of air circulation. Roothoft prefers large air grills above and in front of the birds. From the watcher's box, the flying behavior of the widowers is strictly monitored. André Roothoft only has 1 widower's loft with birds flying short, middle and long distance. Attention must therefore be given to the different racing methods employed for each distance. From Saturday evening through to Sunday evening, all birds are fed a depurative mixture. Middle and long distance pigeons get access after Saturday's race arrival. Short distance birds only on race arrival Sunday, and a full weekend's feed for those long distance birds that will be sent the following week. A simple but effective system. The widowers are fed with a spoon, but helpings are plentiful. Fresh pickstone, vitaminerals and other standard supplements are always freely available. The widowers are first to exercise, followed by the young birds. An empty loft allows a thorough clean to be conducted. The standing grills have been removed from the young bird loft as they were damaging the bird's feathers. Here, as in all sections, the loft boasts a comprehensive, well-thought-out ventilation system. Every year, Andre Roothoft breeds a robust team of youngsters. He believes in breeding a lot of birds, which then allows him to keep on the very best. Selections take place from hatching. An average 20% of those hatched are killed during weaning, and only the very best are kept after the season. Motivating the young bird time is not only a must, it's an art. Both Andre and Marcel are naturals when it comes to increasing the motivation, but the simple wooden boxes are very important. An important race system used in this loft is without doubt what they refer to as the game with the hens. 12 hens are housed in a separate section, complete with floor grills. They are paired for the first time at the beginning of April and at first raced to newly laid eggs. Racing continues until the squeakers are 10 days old, and then left alone with their offspring. During training, the cocks are allowed access to feed the youngsters, thereby helping conserve the hens' energy for racing. When the squeakers reach the age of 20 days, they are taken away and the cocks are reintroduced to the hens on return from competition. From then on, the hens are raced on the widowhood system for about 3 weeks, and then the cycle repeats itself. For Andre, this has been a successful formula for many years, and he sees no reason to make changes. Andre is a regular contributor to the Belgian bi-weekly publication Dweefgelakte. One of his most famous quotes roughly translates to, "The fancier who tells you he races successfully, give medicines or supplements is a liar." We know Andre as the fancier who tries to reconcile Mother Nature with the minimum of medicine. The fancier who regularly gives garlic in the drinking water will surely reap the rewards sooner rather than later. Cloves that have started to shoot are completely worthless. Trichomonas is one pigeon disease that can be avoided, and several good treatments are available. In this shot, we see Ridsol being used, but this product is only available in the UK on a vet prescription. Young birds are particularly susceptible to these diseases and should be given a preventative every 3 to 4 weeks. Alternate product brands to prevent the birds building up a resistance. As the racing seasons seem to get harder and the program busier, this loft recommends glucose and electrolytes to be given on return from races. They are both simply added to the drinking water. A vitamin B complex is given with precise measurement. Even with vitamins, it's essential not to use more than the manufacturer's recommendation. And who doesn't have to cope with dirty noses and wet eyes in the young birds? Scientists call it ornithose complex. Most fanciers refer to it as snot or mucus. Treat for 3 to 5 days with 1 gram of erythromycin per litre of water. If individual treatment is preferred, Spartrix is recommended against trichomoniosis and Apotex for coccidiosis. Both are especially useful for birds arriving late from races, and if pigeons are brought into the loft. Infection of the complete loft must be avoided at all costs. Terramycin eye ointment is used in cases of eye injury. Argyrol is a disinfectant used for the nose and eyes. The dark fluid in a healthy bird disappears quickly through the tear canal. Andre Roothoft places a great deal of faith in the products provided by Mother Nature. Before the racing season, all birds are given tea for a full fortnight. He is impressed with the results. Says you can notice an immediate improvement in the feathers. A spoonful of tea per litre of water, soaked for 10 minutes in hot boiling water, works wonders on the bird's condition. Good quality stock birds are the pillar of a successful racing team. And for Andre Roothoft, these were acquired from his good friend, Van der Polde of Wielde. The superb examples offered by this little-known fancier convinced Andre they were the birds that would lay the foundation for his venture. The superb examples offered by this little-known fancier convinced Andre they were the birds that would lay the foundation for his own venture. Roothoft wasn't impressed by big names or expensive price tags. He would trust his own knowledge and a gut feeling as to what constituted good birds. In fact, over the next 20 years, both lofts would actively exchange birds every season. This loft also pursues a very strict pairing selection, and only the very best can be found in the breeding loft. Not quite as severe as some lofts we have visited, as brothers and sisters of those who have shown ability are permitted. Birds with physical or genetic defects are not allowed. Perfect specimens only is the rule here, as experience has taught the cross-breeding program will be seriously jeopardized. The breeding loft was designed and constructed with ease of use and hygiene very much in mind. The floor grids are considered essential, as are grids beneath the food and water hoppers. Refilling of corn, water and byproducts can be done from the corridor. The breeding loft houses a real wealth of talent. The bird seen here is the 125, a son of the famous 384, grandson of the 667 of 1978. The 062 is a real superclass, a bird that rarely lets his master down, a pigeon to rely on. At his peak, he gained a provincial victory from Thielen and an Ace Pigeon Award in the Kempensa Long Distance Club, and most spectacular of all, a first from Dourdan in the Antwerp Union. .062 is a brother of the 125, and because of his sterling service, has now reserved a permanent place in the breeding loft. And the best of all is a 384 himself. It is no exaggeration to label him the best breeder when you consider he has fathered no fewer than 2 provincial winners. The half-brother of 384 is thought special and one of 10 brothers permanently at stud. In fact, no chances were taken, and it was decided not to even race him. This is 500 of 1976, a stock mother of the loft, and of Janssen descent through Karel Kuivers of Giel, a real pillar of the loft. We wish Andre Roothoft continued success with his down-to-earth approach to breeding and racing. Luxem and Dengfu Chung met for the first time about 5 years ago. They immediately became friends after discovering they both shared the same enthusiastic passion for good pigeons. They thought as one, and a lasting partnership was born. It was not long after their chance meeting that Luk confided he was thinking of laying the foundation to a loft that would be based on purely national and international winners. For Deng, it was a dream come true, and now it would only be a matter of time before the Luxem Dengfu Chang collection would become reality. Dengfu Chang, 46 years old, a professional pigeon broker, wealthy businessman, and enthusiastic collector of top-class pigeons. He's the publisher of one of Taiwan's leading pigeon publications, Pigeon Fanciers Monthly. His first spectacular purchases began in 1979, when he was successful in purchasing St. Vincent from Armersch of Stray. Since then, over 100 national, international, and ace pigeons have made their way to his door. In 1977, Luxem and his father went into partnership flying from this small loft. At first, they concentrated on sprint and middle distance, but it would not be long before they attempted the long races. Moerslede, a small village in West Vlaanderen, made famous by the legendary Paul Bostin. It would now see a new long-distance maestro being born. After watching the arrival of the pigeons from the 1981 St. Vincent race at Paul's house, he quickly fell under the influence of the Grand Master. So much so, he spent every minute of his spare time at this loft. Paul Bostin welcomed his help, and Luk wasted no opportunity to learning the tricks of the trade. The experience gained would stand him in good stead for the future. Luk was excited by the quality pigeons, the loft's star-spangled results, world-stage newspaper reports, and countless thousands of photographs accumulated over the years. In the 3 years he spent under the wing of Paul Bostin, he acquired a burning passion to succeed. In many ways, the same loft and birds are still here today, but this magnificent installation now stands on the site of Paul Bostin's original loft. The widowhood loft is a true copy of the earlier construction. When Bostin passed away, the decision was taken to concentrate solely on long distance. Great demands were placed on the racing team, and in the early days they started the season with only 6 or 7 pigeons. The best way to start, insists Luke. After building this amazing loft, they turned their sights to purchasing the finest stock birds money could buy. First International Pau 1992 and its parents. First International Pau 1990. First International Marseille 1988. Second International Barcelona 1987, Third International Barcelona 1992 and its parents, First National Dax 1992 and its parents, First National Ace Pigeon and the Netherlands 1989, First National Ace Pigeon, the Netherlands Long Distance 1990, Second National Ace Pigeon, the Netherlands Long Distance 1991, First International Barcelona 1993, the 150 of Remy Hobergs. In 1993, the first large-scale breeding program began. 180 young birds were bred under the auspices of consultant veterinarian Paul Lemarie. The only medication the youngsters received was vaccine to prevent pox and paramyxovirus. No other medication was tolerated, and birds showing any sign of weakness were immediately disposed of. The first round was soon basketed for Bordeaux, about 730 kilometers. Results were satisfactory, with the 13th and 67th national in a race that saw 7,245 entries. In total, 16 of the 28 sent received prizes. Results, however good, would not guarantee any bird automatic entry into next season's widowhood team. Only the best of the best would be kept at the end of the season. Here's a bird you should recognize. It's Ricky, from the loft of JAN Thielen, international winner 1993. Ricky, the smart little hen that held the flag of Holland high by beating all competition from Barcelona by a full 1 hour. This is Spieltei, international winner of POW 1992, bred by the German Klaus Schmidt. In hot weather and in a strong headwind, this bird beat 6,874 entrants. Luke is very proud to own this bird. On the father's side, we find 50% Wieden from Solingen in the pedigree. And on the mother's, we find she's 100% Demet Mathis. Both grandparents are direct descendants of Capuan. Capuan was first international St. Vincent. This grandmother was produced by a pairing of the son of National Hen, who won first national La Souterraine, and a daughter of the Crack from Van Coulebrug. It is no secret that this loft is a fan of the Desmet Methis pigeons, so it came as no surprise to learn they negotiated a price to buy both parents of this international winner. This is the Marseille from Guy Caron of Roussy in France. The Marseille entered the history books by winning International Marseille 1988. This race is always a fast one, but this supercock beat 14,273 entrants by a full 20 minutes. This is not his only claim to fame, as he can boast a list of 22 other spectacular results. The pedigree of the Marseille is based on 100% Belgian long-distance blood from the loft of Yvonne de Neufbeau. The Barcelona from Heinbras can't fail to appeal to a true pigeon fancier, beautifully constructed and with a race history to match. From the grueling Barcelona race, this bird arrived at its loft in the complete dark at 1:45 in the morning. After hard negotiation, the loft of Sin Dengfu Chung purchased the entire stock loft from Heinbras. These pigeons will help form the backbone of the breeding loft for many years to come. Barcelona Brass is seen as the perfect long-distance pigeon. He is a descendant from a family of winners and is a delight to handle. As a breeder, he is worth his weight in gold. And here we have the Tonsing, bred by Jan Cobben of Nuth. In 1989, this superbird was first national overnight pigeon in the Dutch Federation. His results include Dax National, 86th against 15,383 birds, Bergerac 19th against 21,818 birds, Perpignan 3rd against almost 3,000 birds. Real top class. This bird has an equally impressive pedigree. Its father is 040 from Cobber, a son of the well-known 02 and grandson of the top breeder 66. Its mother is Zuster van Thielen of L. Curvers. And if we dig deeper, we discover such names as Delbar, Van der Wegen, and the first international of Professor van Grimbergen. With a loft complex on this scale, and such a selection of truly top-class talent at their disposal, who can doubt the Sin Denfu Chang partnership has a very promising future. The annual charity race from Bourg is known as the Prisoner of War race, as all funds are donated to war veterans. It is without doubt the main young bird classic in the racing calendar. Every year sees enormous increase in the number of birds basketed, and this year was no exception. Interestingly, this liberation also contains both old birds and yearlings, competing for separate prizes. This year all records were again broken, with no fewer than 9,714 old, 10,643 yearlings, and a staggering 68,007 young birds released. It was the largest single liberation in the history of Belgian pigeon racing. As a mark of respect to His Majesty King Baudouin of Belgium, whose funeral would coincide with the planned Saturday release, it was decided to postpone liberation to Sunday, August the 8th. In homage to the much thought-after royal patron, fanciers from the King's province of Brabant, Brussels, travelled with the huge train, proudly waving the Belgian flag. On Saturday in the late afternoon, the Bourge birds were given their last feed before liberation. Deemed the nutritional food for the conditions, only pure maize was given. But the elixir of life for a pigeon preparing for competition is, of course, plenty of water. Cool, fresh, pure water. In an act of cooperation rarely seen in the United Kingdom, the water was supplied and delivered by the Bourg Fire Department. The air temperature continued to rise, so their kind gesture was nothing short of life and death. Overnight, all doors and windows were kept open, but the temperature still hovered around the 26° centigrade mark. Conditions were not ideal, but the decision had been taken to liberate on the Sunday. With the birds fed and watered, it was time for the ever-attentive conveyors to replenish their reserves. In the Café La Petite Vitesse, the official headquarters of the Bourg conveyors, a good meal was served. Sunk down with several litres of fine vin de patron, house wine. And in traditional French style, copious selections of cheese. They really are in good hands with the owner, Mama Ginette. As nightfall descends, a cigarette is rolled and jokes are exchanged. For some, it's time for an early night. The days are long, the nights too short. As night falls over Bourg, Philippe Normand arrives to exchange some pigeon talk and tells the small gathering the weather forecast for tomorrow doesn't look promising. At 5 o'clock in the morning, the 31 conveyors are reinforced by a contingent of 70 French army soldiers. Their help will make light work of unloading the baskets and releasing the birds. The unloading begins. All 4,390 race baskets must be removed and in place within an hour and a half. Daylight breaks over Bourg. The birds will be given a final drink before release. Chief Conveyor, Robert Vercoutrin, arrives at La Petite Vitesse headquarters.